everyone, it's Iain at RTO here. Welcome to another album ranking day. Today, the whole of our shows, it's about you, your requests. Whole day, 2 shows of pure requests from you guys. So the album ranking request was for a band called Talk Talk. Now, what I'd heard of Talk Talk was the poppy 80s stuff. When I listened to the other albums, was I in for a shock, and I thought, wow, these are good. So I can't remember who suggested it. Thank you for this, because I've discovered some music that's pretty cool. Formed in 1981, they were active for about 10 years, from 81 to 1991. The mainstay of the band was Mark Hollis on vocals and Lee Harris on drums and Paul Webb. They were the mainstay of Talk Talk. They were a pop synthy band to start with, before moving in towards an experimental approach of jazz and improvisation in the mid-80s to the end of their career. They released 5 albums in total. So we'll have a look at these 5 albums. So coming in at number 5, get to the second album, released in 1984, It's My Life. And on here, apart from Mark Hollis, Paul Webb and Lee Harris, we've got Tim Freeze-Green on programming drumming machine, Ian Curnow on the keyboards, Phil Rackamon on the piano, extra guitars by Robbie McIntosh, Maurice Pert on percussion. Now there's someone that's played with quite a few people, including Mr. Mike Oldfield, and then we've got trumpet from Henry Lowther. Okay, the first track on this album is called Dum Dum Girl. It's got that typical 80s sound, of course, that electronic keyboard sound. For me, it's not what I was into, although I liked a lot of 80s stuff at the time. This is one track that I can't get into. Such a shame. The next track, that's that generic synthetic 80s pop with synthesizers and horrible drum machines. No, not for Ian. Then we get Reenie. This is a good track. It's got some great vocals from Mark Hollis. It's also got the trumpet, which sounds really good. And this sounds more like an Ultra Fox song from that era, and I right like that one. I've got no problem with that one. Pretty good song. Then we got the big hit, the title track, It's My Life. Yeah, I didn't mind this when it came out. It's got quite a catchy tune. Nothing wrong with that. Then we got Tomorrow's Started. Again, this has got some trumpet in. It's my favourite track. I think this is one of them deep cut tracks off this album. You could see they wanted to go a little bit more experimental, or even on this track. It's my favourite track. It's a really solid track. The Last Time, unfortunately, this is not my cup of tea. It's too poppy for me. Then we get sorry, we're going to repeat the same track. Start again, Ian. This next track is called Cool in the Night Boy. It's just that genetic pop from the 80s. It's pleasant enough, but I wouldn't say, yeah, I want to hear that again. Does Caroline know? Great vocals here for Mark. Again, experimental, different sort of beat. That little jazz sort of thing is starting to creep in, and it's a pretty good track. Then we got It's You. Not too bad. Got some nice keyboard swirls in this one. It's listenable. Okay, the album itself, it's an okay album. my favourite tracks are them deep cut experimental tracks. It's got a bit more fusion sound to it. The poppy ones are just not for me. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 4, we've got the debut album from 1982, The Party's Over. Joining Mark Hollis, Lee Harris and Paul Webb on this. Simon Brenner on keyboards. First track is the big hit, of course, Talk Talk. I didn't mind this one when it came out. It's catchy, it's got a hook. Not a bad song, actually. Then it's So Serious. Again, it's a catchy 80s pop tune, but there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I can listen to it. It's not like it's too poppy for me. It's just catchy. Then we got another hit, and probably one of my favourite. It's probably my favourite track on the album, Today. Really like this. It's again from that sort of era. We had, you know, Depeche Mode, Tears for Fears, Ultravox, Visage. I think it's a pretty good song. One of them outstanding tracks from the 80s. Then we get The Party's Over. Again, I think this is a good song. It's one of the deep cut tracks for me. It's got a lovely keyboard sound. Even the drum machine sounds good on this. Very, very good track. Then we get Hate. It's alright. Just generic pop song there. Have You Heard the News? Nice arrangement on this. I love the keyboard swirls. I do like their obscure stuff off this album. It's really, really good. Mirror Man, nothing to do with Human League, of course. Too poppy. Far too poppy for me. Didn't like that one. Another World. Again, it's a little bit too poppy. And the last track, Candy. A really good vocal for Mark Hollis. His arrangement's very good. It's got a nice catchy melody. Nothing wrong with that one at all. Reasonable album this is. I like the more obscure tracks on here. The arrangements are good, and I'd say they're quite clever. A lot of thought went into some of these tracks. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, then we move into the stuff that I'd never really heard until I was asked to do this ranking. And boy was I in for a ride. These 3 albums are really, really good, and I like them. I like the experimentation on them, and the jazzy sound. It's really good. So coming in at number 3, then we have the 5th and final album, released in 1991, Laughingstock. We got Mark Hollis and Lee Harris on this. They're the only original 2 members. Tim Freese-Green's back. Mark Feltnam's on the harmonica. Martin Ditchman on percussion. And then a handful of people doing backing vocals. We've got some acoustic bass from Ernest Molhuth. Cellos, Roger Smith and Paul Kegg. Henry Lowther's back on trumpet and flugelhorn. And Dave White on a contrabass clarinet. First track is, I don't know how to pronounce this. I've put it up on the screen. I don't know if it's Moiraham or Merman. I thought I'd put the name of it on because someone will correct me. This is deep, atmospheric, almost classical. That cello sounds really good. I was really impressed with that. Ascension Day. This is quite jazz fusion without a doubt, but done electronically. Very good bass line on this. Mark Hollis's vocal is terrific. He really gives it that atmosphere. After the Flood, love this. Atmospheric, ambient. Love the keyboard textures on this. It is so relaxing. Let me get to my favourite track on this album, Taphead. This is almost progressive rock done on keyboards. It's terrific. Terrific piece of music. I was so amazed that these are very good musicians. Totally away from that pop when they started. Newgrass. Even the drum machine sounds good on this. It's really strong track. Then the last track is Runelai, probably the weakest track on the album, but what I do like about it is that bass line. It's a very jazz sounding bass. Terrific. This was such a departure from that first album. It's got some really nice movements on this, some really good jazz style progressive music. It was absolutely a delight to listen to, and I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in number 2, we have the 4th album, released in 1988, Spirit of Eden. This has got full of improvised performances. They drew this from the jazz, ambient, blues and classical music and a little bit of dub. This is basically Mark Hollis, Lee Harris and Paul Webb on their own. And lock themselves away and come up with an absolute belter of an album. First track on this one is The Rainbow. I love this guitar in this. It's got that gentle atmospheric feel to it. Again, Mark Hollis is a fantastic singer. Some really nice piano work as well from Mark. Really strong track. Then we get Eden. The combination on here of guitars and keyboards are magnificent. Very interesting arrangement. But again, that jazz blues classical, it's a mixture of all. It is really, really good. Then we get Desire. A great song. Very ambient, very relaxing, and it reminds me of Elbow. If you like Elbow, you're going to like this, because this song is in that vein of Elbow, which are another good band, and we will be reviewing them this year. Next track, Inheritance. Again, this reminds me of someone else. This reminds me of some of that Peter Gabriel stuff, round about PG4 and so. Really, really good. The guitars are great. The keyboards are ambient. Great track. I Believe in You. Brilliant track. My favourite on the album. It's so ambient. The keyboards just flows. Beautiful track. Then we get Wealth. The last track. It's got a deep keyboard sound on, very church organ. It's got that echo as well to it. Reminds me of some of Gary Brooker's keyboard playing on with Procol Harum. It's a super track. This is such a relaxing album. It's one of them albums you put on a Sunday morning and just chill reading the paper or something. It is a really good album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, my number 1. We go to the 3rd album, released in 1986, The Colour of Spring. This has got Mark Hollis, Lee Harris and Paul Webb. Some excellent tracks on this. This is an album that's sort of still got a bit of that 80s pop, but they're moving into more jazz fusion, classical neo music, and that combination really worked well for me. First track is called Happiness is Easy. I love the sound on it. You've got some nice keyboard and piano working well together. Acoustic guitar keeps coming in and out of the track. Excellent track. I Don't Believe You. Again, the keyboard's that really rich sound but soft at the same time. So the piano works really well in here. This has got a nice melody and it's got a fantastic guitar solo. Fantastic track. Life's What You Make It. This is so basic. Piano and guitar. Beautiful, ambient, atmospheric, terrific. April the 5th. Okay, this has got more of that 80s pop sound to it, but with added a little bit of this jazz fusion. Fantastic track. Really enjoyable track. Living in Another World. We've still got a lot of that poppy sound on this one from the first two albums, but this is the changeover. This is that changeover song that the ambience of what they were going to do for the next couple of albums comes out. Really strong track. Give It Up. God, bass and piano on this are in harmony. So is Mark Hollis's vocals. Then you get this deep, warm keyboard sound that really keeps going in between the bass and the drum and the piano. Fantastic. Great stuff. Chameleon Day. What an ambient piano track this is. That strong lyric, vocals are really good, eerie, daunting sort of track. I like them sort of tracks. Very dark, but excellent. Time It's Time. A great track to end the album. You've got that ambient sound, you've got that bit of pop. Very good track. This is that album that started to change the direction of Talk Talk. Still got some of their pop influence, but that ambient jazz sound is coming through songs on here. These are Mark Hollis's best vocals. It's an album that I'm now got in my library on Spotify. I do really like this album. Again, it's relaxing but with energy as well. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Well, all I'll say about this ranking, it was a really good experience for me personally. I've now discovered that Talk Talk were not just that poppy band in the start of the 80s. They had some intricate songs in their later period, and then the last 3 albums are fantastic, and they are in my library. Okay, next up today is retro ranking, and again it's a viewer's request, and this one came directly from the live stream a couple of weeks ago. Someone says, "Oh, will you do Stone Roses and the Smiths on a retro?" I went, "Yep." They're the ones easy to do for me because it's just going through looking through their discography, looking through the singles, having a listen to a few tracks, easily done. So the retro ranking requests get done quicker than the albums, of course. So we're going to look at the Smiths, a very underrated band. Should have been bigger than what they were. So join me for that. Until then, bye for now. Oh, and by the way, new t-shirt off thing. It's got the little man logo, smaller logo. If you'd like one, click on the screen, and in the last bit in the right hand corner is the red bubble sign. Go and get one yourselves. Take care for now.